everybody, and welcome back to another Baseball Talk radio show. I'm Gary Mack, and I'm here as usual with my good friend, the great Rich Baxter. Rich, it has been a while since we've talked to one another.
Yes, it has been. It's been a couple weeks. We skipped a couple shows, but it's great talking baseball. Streaming live to our Facebook page here, our personal page, after going all summer we did to our Baseball Talk Radio show live page, and we're going to our friends page today. Gary, we're going to let them see how it is to record a live show.
Yeah, and you'll see warts and all, and there will be an edited version. Now, when I say an edited version, we don't really cut out anything uh, too much. I don't really go that depth, but we do add some flushed flurry and little doojiggers to it
A
to
little
make it a little bit
pizzazz.
more to zap it up a little bit, but it's basically the same show. But Rich, we were saying that we missed a couple of weeks here because well, life gets in the way, folks. You're busy and things happen, and we got busy, and Rich got busy at work and other things, and I'm doing some things, and boy, the time flies when you get at an older age. Not like these young people that seems to drag on for them. We wish it would drag on for us.
Yeah, yeah. Summer went by like a song, Gary. Just seems like it started just a few weeks ago. And believe it or not, we're in the last Sunday of summer, astronomical summer here.
Right?
Next week, it's going to be fall. So
Wow.
it happened so fast. And the baseball season has went by so fast as well. But over the last week, we had our first 100-win team surface up.
Yeah, the Dodgers, and they won their 100th game. And Rich, it's they're the fastest to get to 100 wins in 21 years. They did it in 144 games. And of course, the 2001 Mariners did it in 140 games. So, Dodgers, if you think they locked up their division, I'd have to say so.
I think so. It seems like I've seen a few of their games, and they haven't won them all. You can't possibly win them all, but they've won 100 games. That's an accomplishment when you have a 162 game season. They have a lot of the best players in baseball. We got to be honest here. They've spent the most money of any team to get that. Sometimes teams spend a lot of money and they don't attain success. But LA has been on this successful path for the past couple years, and let's be honest, they've spent a ton of money to get there.
Yeah, I mean they have they keep spending the money, getting the best players, as you say, with the Mookie Betts and uh,
Freddie Freeman.
Freeman, and it's and the Walker Bueller, who's out hurt now, but the pitching, and they've developed some of the players as well. So you know, it's a mixture that they have, and the big question I have is the Cody Bellinger. He was all world a couple of years ago, and boy, he's really hit rock bottom now, but still managed to get some big hits, and he's terrific defensively, so that's why he's still in the lineup. But they've just, they've got some team, and they put it together, and they go out and win, and probably should have won more championships by now. But we'll see what happens this year. Hopefully, one of our teams can stop them.
Yeah, it's almost like the Dodgers are the Yankees of old. You know, we remember
Yeah.
the Yankees with George Steinbrenner during that period of time. And they had to have every top free agent that became available from, I don't know, the mid 70s on through the 90s with Jeter and A Rod and, all of those players. I mean, they went on a tear for a number of years. Of course, they had amazing success as well, spending all that money And, Aaron Judge is doing well for the Yankees right now.
Hmm.
But, I watched a few Yankees games over the past couple weeks here and there, and that the rest of the team isn't those marquee players, so to speak, that they used to carry. So they're doing amazing with players that aren't so much the household names that we used to hear that they used to have, sort of like the Dodgers do now.
Yeah. Uh, but the Yankees this year, they had that big lead. Now they've come back to earth. Kind of settled out a little bit now, but they're not as dominating as they were even earlier this season. Aaron Judge is going to be a free agent, so I think there's going to be just a few teams that may be interested in him.
And do you think he's completely out for the Yankees? I find it hard to believe that an organization like the Yankees would allow a player with the status of Aaron Judge to just walk away. I can almost guarantee you that he's going to be a Yankee after this season. In the off season, he's going to sign a Yankee. They're going to sign him for whatever he wants. He's going to. It's going to be a record. It's going to be more than Mike Trout. If he is not a Yankee by the start of next season, I will be completely shocked. The way the
Well,
Yankees are.
there's some speculation that the Mets with Mr. Cohen and his money could be interested in going after him. So Judge could have the best of both worlds. He could be still playing in New York and get a big contract. And, all he's got to do is move across town. So who knows what may happen. It's something to think about, but I kind of think he'll stay with the Yankees. I'm not sure who his agent is, but there's a lot of possibilities there. For instance, the Mets starting center fielder Brandon Nimmo, he's a free agent as well, and he is a client of Mr. Boris, and Mr. Boris likes to take his clients into free agency. So that opens up center field. Aaron Judge has played a lot of center field this year. You throw him a big enough contract, he could be playing center field for the New York Mets and not lose any of his endorsements. He's just got to change the colors of the hats and change the hat in a commercial or whatever. So it's an interesting thing to think about, and we'll get there'll be more speculation once the season ends. But he's having a real big year,
Yeah,
a
yeah.
huge year, and
Yep.
could break the Yankees' individual home run record, which is 61, set by Roger Maris. And a lot of people feel that's still the home run record. With McGuire and Barry Bonds being on the steroids, they still look at it. But he's had a good career. The batting average isn't the best, but it's not awful. 283 lifetime. He's hitting 312 this year. That's pretty damn good.
That's awesome.
Uh, you know,
For a slugger, I think that's
100
amazing.
yeah, 123 RBIs. 158 strikeouts is a little bit high, and he's 30 years old. But somebody's gonna sign him for 7 years or 8 years,
Yeah,
and
yeah. This is his contract year, and I'm sure his agent and he collaborated on this and said together, "Hey, you have to have a monster year this year. This is going to be all your eggs in the basket for the next part of probably the end of your career.
hmm
7-year deal, I would imagine somebody's going to go for on this, and we're looking at probably, I hate to say it, $500 million. Does that sound right?
yeah, yeah, and it could be one of those ones where they sign him and they're still paying him in 30 years for something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's possible. It's crazy, but possible. And but he's a good ball player. I mean, he plays both sides of the ball. The only thing I would be concerned about is the possibility of injuries. He has had some injuries in his career. So you worry now as he gets a little bit older, you know, is that going to affect him? But he hasn't been anywhere near the injuries of Giancarlo Stanton, his teammate. So
Though he's very similar to Giancarlo's.
he's very similar. They're both very big guys and tall, but he seems to be a little bit more durable than Giancarlo. Um, but we'll see. It'll be interesting thing to watch the off season and the free agent stuff that goes on every year. So he's definitely worth taking a chance on. I would think if he can get his bat for a couple of years. A team like the Mets now, they're building themselves to win now. So they do have some guys in the minors that are ready to come. They've been up this year. Brett Beatty came up and he struggled a little bit, but he's 22 years old. Vientos, so a guy named Mark Vientos is up now. He's struggling. Again, he's like 22. So there's young guys there for teams to bring up, but if you could get a guy like Judge, holy, crap! Imagine him on the Phillies with Schwarber, or back to back, or at the Mets with Alonso, or the thing is, you don't want the Dodgers to get him.
Oh yeah, I don't think the Dodgers could afford. They might be able to afford him, but no, I think it would it would sink a team like the Dodgers. Could they afford Aaron Judge?
Well, you never know. They could dump something else,
Yeah.
and if they dump a couple of big contracts, and you put that money towards Judge. It's a possibility. I mean, they could move Bellinger. They could move some other guys. Betts and Freeman are not going anywhere. I don't think their pitching staff gets a lot. They don't have any real big names. Like last year they got Scherzer in a trade, but he was a free agent and he's gone. So they don't have guys necessarily like that, other than Kershaw. But he signed. I don't know what. He signed to a reasonable contract, I think, because he's struggled the last couple of years. So I mean, look, if there's a will, there's a way. You find the money.
Yeah.
You don't sign Trey Turner. Maybe they've got a minor league shortstop that's ready to go or something like that. I don't know enough about the roster to be 100% sure, but I think you find a way.
that, that could be. Let's take a little peek at the playoff scenarios that are building up here in baseball. As we mentioned, the Dodgers are in. You're not going to have 100 wins and not be in the postseason. The Astros are going to be in. The Mets are going to be there. The Braves are going to be there. That's a sure thing. Some other clubs that are still battling out: the Mariners, the Rays from Tampa, the Phillies. As you said, my Phillies can't help out the Mets, and they can't even help out themselves at times. And the Padres. So all those teams are battling it out for a spot: the Mariners, Rays, Phillies, and Padres. So we still have interesting baseball to watch here.
Yeah.
In the next 3 weeks, the rest of the season, as the games get narrowed down, so to speak, in the season. And every game is important for these teams that are chasing a wild card.
Oh, there is. When we were talking last week, and I talked about it on my show, Mets Musings, that, the Mets are going to have the easiest schedule. And I think I said on Mets Musings that, don't count on that. Be wary about these teams that are, the below 500 and not going to the playoffs, because sometimes they get a young players in, they bring them up, and they want to prove themselves. And the Mets have had a hard time now. They've lost 2.5 games in the standings to Atlanta. It's a 1 game lead. Atlanta and them are fighting it out for that division. And you want to win the division. You want to be in the first two playoff teams in both leagues, so you get that bye in the first division, the first round of the playoffs. And right now, it's St. Louis, the Mets, and the Dodgers, of course. Um, the Mets have got to hold off St. Louis. They've got to hold off Atlanta to win the division. And yes, they'll be in the postseason. I think their magic number is 4 to get a postseason bid. It's where you fall that you want to stay in that top two. And to do that, they have to win the division. But the Phillies are battling the Padres for position. But you know what? Milwaukee's sneaking up there again, too. So they're going to have to be weary. Both teams are going to have to be weary of Milwaukee, only a game and a half behind the Padres. And I guess they're another maybe 2 games behind the Phillies. So it is a tight race in the National League. I mean, the American League a little bit more settled, but Cleveland all of a sudden has popped up, Rich, and they've grabbed the division lead. And Baltimore's still in there. I think that's such a great story that it's my favorite story of the year so far.
Yeah, Baltimore's still hanging tough, although an outside chance. But all you need to do is make the playoffs, and you never know what's going to happen after that. And Cleveland, a big surprise out of nowhere. It seems the Twins sort of folded up a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and they were looking like a powerhouse in midsummer.
Right.
And I don't know what happened to them. I don't really watch those Midwest teams all that much unless they're playing, the local teams, my Phillies or the Mets or something like that. But, yeah, they folded up. And out west, it's the Houston Astros with a commanding lead. They're going to make it. And a disappointment for the Los Angeles Angels again. You have 2 great players out there, Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout, and they're both going to be home for the offseason. There's something wrong with that out there.
It's the way the rest of the team's constructed, I think. It's just not conducive to, the pitching staff has never been good. And I don't know. It's the way they construct their teams or something, because it's just a shame. You get 2 superstars like that, and nobody gets to see them.
Yeah, yeah, in the postseason. But yep, the season's winding down soon. I got my Eagles shirt on today. A lot of football action around. Everybody's happy about that. And one thing that happens in the Philadelphia area, I don't know if it happens up in New York, but when football season comes back, you get fans in the baseball stadium that will chant about the Eagles, and it's kind of funny because you're sitting there. If you're a baseball fan, you hear these football fans, "Let's go Eagles," like
Yeah.
it's almost a parody sometimes. Pretty funny.
I can remember back in the day, it gets like that, but it goes both ways as well. I don't think I've been to a football game since 1986, but I can remember it was 85 or 86. I think it was 86, and I actually went to a game in September, and the Mets were playing in Montreal. I'll never forget. And they were, getting near clinching. It was a couple of games away. And I used to have one of those Sony Walkman, not a Walkman, Watchman.
Mm-hmm.
the little TVs, and it just so happens that the Mets were on Channel 9, which was their old, over the air broadcast station.
Right.
So we brought this. My buddy and I went to a Jets game, and we were sitting in the stadium, and I think the Jets were getting hammered, and I was tuning into the game to follow the Mets game, and it was hard to see sometimes because of the sun and everything. But it had a hood over it, and you could hear things, So I'm watching the game, and then I don't know, the Mets would score, and I would go, "Yeah," and people were around.
Mm-hmm.
Well, by the fourth quarter, the game was coming to an end, the Jets game, and the Mets were in the ninth inning or something. I had a crowd of people around me, all trying to peer in on this little 2 inch or whatever the heck it was screen, watching the Met game because they were so excited about the Mets at that point in time. But here we were at the old Giant Stadium at a football game watching. I was watching the Met game, but it go fans. If you're a fan of both, it's tough to regulate what you're gonna watch. And if
Yeah.
you're at one thing, you may want to watch, and they're playing at the same time. It's tough, but I can't never watch. Really, I don't get to see my team unless they're on. I root for the Steelers, and unless they're on like a national TV program, I don't get them.
Steelers killed me last weekend. I had the Bengals, by the way. Did you see that game?
I saw the end of it, uh, but that was it.
That was incredible. I've never seen or heard of a game that a team could have won that many times that the Bengals could have won that game. I had the Bengals. All they had to do was win, and my parlay was coming through. Not a big parlay, mind you, but they couldn't kick a field goal to save their lives.
Didn't they have a field goal with no time left or something? They could have won it in regulation, right? And then in the first overtime,
they could have won it a couple times during the game. It was unbelievable. I mean, anything that could go wrong did go wrong, and it was amazing. So the Steelers sunk me on that one. Thanks, Gary.
Well, your Phillies aren't helping me, so.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to let our listeners know to check out baseballtalkradio.com. It's the home for great baseball radio talk shows, and they're shows like you're listening to right now. There's some professional shows on there. I know I said I was going to get around to having it stream this year. I never made the time to do it, so maybe the off season. I know I used to have listeners, Gary, from all over the world tuning in to that baseball feed because you can't get the content as easy as you may think in other countries. Right. So, I mean, that was a good outlet for people. I'm going to have to devise some sort of paywall to get through to that and see if it's successful because I had the listeners. So if you're a fan of baseballtalkradio.com, look for that soon. I'll probably get it hooked up in the off season.
And that off season is going to be busy, Rich. And next season, we're going to see some rule changes as well to baseball, even though the Players Association is not happy with it. But
it came out of the blue, too, it seems like, didn't it? It's just, oh, by the way, here.
I think they've been discussing it. I mean, there's been talks about it for the last while. It's been done, they've been doing the pitch clock has been in effect in the minor leagues for the last couple of years, and it seems to have worked very well there. So, they're going to have 3 rule playing changes aimed at improving pace of play at the major league level next year.
Yeah, and
so we'll see.
As you mentioned, the pitch clock, baseball's not controlled by time, people. That's what we love about it. It's not an hour and a half. It's not like a hockey game. You're going to go to a hockey game. Generally, it's over at the same time if it starts at the same time, day in, day out, just like basketball. They're both controlled by time. But baseball is one of those fantastic games that when you go to it, you never know what's going to happen, and you don't know what time it's going to end. You could have a 3-hour rain delay like the Phillies had a couple weeks ago. They had one of the longest rain delays at home ever. They waited it out. I think it was 3.5 hours. I happened to be at an Eagles event right next door in a dry inside stadium, which I was loving. And
Yeah.
I looked over at Citizens Bank Park when I was leaving, and I was like, I'm out of here, like. But they did wait it out. Time shouldn't be kept on a baseball game. I don't care if 10 people, watch a game and 1,000 others say it's too long. That's what baseball is.
Well, they've tried these clocks out, and it seems to work. And the thing is, some of these pitches do take a lot of time, and some of these batters take a lot of time, and that's the kind of thing they want to do away with. And
Do you
if
remember?
you know,
Do you remember Nomar Garcia Parra?
yeah,
He was one of those time guys.
yeah,
Every time he had to adjust his batting gloves and step out of the
and that,
box.
yeah, and that's the kind of thing they want to avoid because it's quite annoying. Um, and it's not the length of the games I think that they're bothered about, and it's just that they want to keep the pace going. They want to keep the game moving along, and um, I think that's going to be something. That's one thing that they're looking at. It seems to be working in the minor leagues. The average time of a 9 inning game in like here, for instance, the major leagues is 3 hours 4 minutes without a pitch clock. With the pitch clock in AAA, it's 2 hours and 43 minutes, and in AA, it's 2 hours and 40 minutes. High A, it's 2 hours and 34 minutes. Single A, it's 2 hours and 36 minutes. So it is a vast improvement with the pitch clock, and I think you'll see that. You're still going to see 3 hour games because the other rule that they're bringing in is the defensive shifts. No more shifts, and that's going to open up the offense. So that could make the games go longer. But again, it's something that's going to make the pace go quicker. The game itself will be more of an even flow because you're not going to have all these defensive stops and all of that. And you know what? I'm kind of in favor of it. I mean, they always kind of shifted, but this playing a guy out in right field, the second baseman, they know second baseman no longer play their position. They're out
Yeah.
in halfway out in the outfield.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. You never had that.
They should have to
Um,
play their position or within a certain reasonable distance.
yeah, I can see a step or two. They go on the grass, but I mean they're out in the outfield for God's sake.
Yeah, a midfielder almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't mind that. I was watching a game and I can't remember where it was, and they had these. I think it was in the Florida State League, but I can't swear to it because I didn't see it again. So maybe it was somewhere else. They had two lines by second base, and they were on an angle like. It's hard to explain.
Mhm.
And they couldn't go in that zone the field is. So I thought it was interesting, but I didn't like that at all. I can see that if a shortstop, that's another thing. They got the third baseman sometime playing in the second baseman's position, and the shortstop's over on the other side. Then you can't make a double play because you got a guy that never turned a double play, the third baseman. It's too much. Too much. Play the game the way it's been played for a long time. I'm all for that.
Cool. Yeah. Interesting. We'll see what happens with that. I'm not a fan of the pitch clock. I've seen there's a pitch clock at Citizens Bank Park that they've been running. I always glance up at that and I'm like, save it. It's baseball. But apparently it's going to be a thing next year.
Well, uh, I've seen it in the minor league games, and it's really, you know what? You get used to it. It's like anything else. You get used to it, and
But
uh,
I don't see a bunch of fans complaining about it in mass. I don't see people saying, "Well, I'm not going to go to a game because it's 3 hours." Number 1, you can leave anytime you want. If you want to go for 2 hours just because the game isn't over, you could leave. But
mhm.
to say, "Let's end the game sooner because we think that it's going on too long." Like, who thinks this? I
Yeah.
haven't seen a big group of people get together and say that.
Well, again, if you talk to people who watch on TV, they think the games are too long. If you
And those are
talk to
people that
people
don't
in the
go to
stadium,
baseball
they don't
games.
think it's too
Yeah,
long.
those are people that don't even buy
So,
tickets, maybe.
I don't know. 6 and 1/2 it done to the other. The other is one other change that they're gonna make, and that's bigger bases.
Yeah.
And I don't understand. I get it, but I don't understand the way they're going to do it because it's not going to be 90 feet anymore. I don't think. If the base is going to be an inch bigger, you're going to lose 2 inches either way, and that could be a thing. Um, I don't know. We'll see what happens. They're going to change the texture of the bases too, so guys don't go sliding off of it as they do sometimes with their cleats now. So we'll see what it goes. But I have to tell you, nobody complains in the minor leagues. Everybody loves the pitch clock. Uh, the guys pitch faster. So and as it happens, they'll be so accustomed to it when these guys come to the majors. And maybe in 10 years they're not going to need a pitch clock because they're going to be used to it and they're going to pitch at that pace anyway. It gets ingrained in your body and your muscle memory, and so you don't even really need the pitch clock. But
Yeah.
uh, I guess they feel like they need something now to stimulate it. And
And they
uh,
didn't give me what I thought they would have for next year, which is robo umps. I would have been in favor for that completely because these umps have been terrible this year.
they're awful.
Terrible with a capital T.
Yeah, they are terrible.
If you're
They
on
are
Twitter,
awful.
there's report cards that are issued each day on every game, every umpire. Go check them out because the missed calls. These guys can throw games, Gary. There's a lot of money being exchanged now. There's a lot of betting going on. Baseball's behind betting. Umpires have tremendous influence. You have to take it out of the umpires' domain right now. You've got guys that are calling strikes that are 2 feet out of the zone. Strikeouts, game changing strikeouts. It's that's a travesty of the game, not the time that it's taken. That's the travesty.
Well, not only that, I mean, the Mets had a call the other night where the guy was clearly running on the infield grass, and they threw. It was a sacrifice bunt, and they threw down the first. He got hit, and should have been called out for being out of the line, but they didn't call it. The views were clear on the video, but they still didn't call it, and they couldn't challenge it. It was an unchallengeable, whatever they call it, unchallengeable play or something like
Hmm.
that. So that's what happens. But there's a lot of wacky stuff that happens, and sometimes it's the umpire's fault, and
Yeah.
sometimes there isn't. And uh, we'll see how all of this works out next year. But one thing I wanted to bring up, Rich,
Before
if
we
you don't,
bring the curtains down on the
before
show.
we bring the curtain down, the Pittsburgh Pirates have had a rough year this year. and have had some of the wackiest moments, if you will, of non-focus or whatever you want to call it. Remember Rodolfo? I can't think of his last name now. The guy slid into third base and his cell phone popped out of his pocket, and he got suspended for a game for having his electronic device and everything. Well, the latest now was Brian Hayes, their third baseman. Now, this happened in a Mets game the other night, and I don't have the video, but I do have a still from it. If you look here, Eduardo Escobar is coming around third base. There's the third base coach, the umpire, right?
Mm-hmm.
The key thing to look for here is Brian Hayes, the Pirates' third baseman, has his glove off. And if you see the video, he takes his hand, reaches in his back pocket, and throws sunflower seeds in his mouth. Now, this is during action in a game.
Yeah.
Escobar was coming around third, and he scored. But what happens if he fell or anything, or if the throw went to third base instead of going home? He's standing there with his glove off, and you can see it clear as day in the picture. He is not a left-handed third baseman. That glove is off. He took his glove off to eat some sunflower seeds in the middle of a game.
That's
in
amazing.
The middle of a play.
That's funny.
Not even in the game, in the middle of a play. And maybe that explains why Pittsburgh, unfortunately, is in last place again. And the lack of focus, I guess it was. But I just wanted to bring that up. And kids, if you're listening or watching on YouTube this show, never take your glove off when the ball is in play. Keep it on your hand, and because you don't know what could happen. He was lucky that there was no play on at third, but what a dumb move.
Yeah, that's one of those funny moments of baseball that you never think you're going to see, and that's what I love about the game. You never know what you're going to see when you go to a ball game. And the people in the stands probably didn't notice because you can't tell somebody's eating a sunflower seed, but the television cameras are always on you. So interesting there, Gary. It's been a great show. We're inching towards the end of the season. We'll probably have a better update with the wild card as we go with the next show next Sunday probably, or during the week. I think I have a game to go to next Sunday. The final home game actually of the Phillies will be next Sunday. So plan on being there. And I brought the season in with opening day and with a good friend of mine who does a podcast with me, and I'll probably be closing out the season with him, the last game. So
that's terrific.
It's a bittersweet moment for us baseball fans when the season ends, because it's a long winter.
Well, look, there's a decent chance that you're going to get into the playoffs, so at least you'll have that.
Yep, that's for sure. All right, well, thanks for listening to this edition of the Baseball Talk Radio Show, everyone. Subscribe to us on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, as they call themselves now, Google Podcast, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Hit that like button, subscribe, and thanks for watching on Facebook as well. I'm going to end the stream here, and have a nice day, everyone.